The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of alien beings filled the floating seats, their forms as different as the stars themselves. Some looked like giant spiders with crystal eyes, others resembled walking trees with glowing bark. A few appeared to be made entirely of shifting light and energy. At the center of the hall stood Ambassador Zexthara. She was a Catherian, tall and proud, with 4 arms that moved like graceful snakes. Her blue skin gleamed under the artificial suns that lit the chamber. Today, she would solve a problem that had troubled the Council for many years. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," Zexthara began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast space. "We gather today to discuss the humans of Sol 3. These creatures have sent us messages begging to join our great civilization. They claim they are ready to walk among the stars with us." A wave of chittering, buzzing, and humming swept through the hall. The aliens were laughing. The very idea seemed ridiculous to them. "These humans," continued a council member who looked like a floating jellyfish, "are weak and pathetic. They have only one heart. Their skin is soft and tears easily. They die if they do not breathe for just a few minutes. How could such fragile beings survive in space?" Another alien, this one resembling a giant metal crab, clicked his claws together. "They live on a world so gentle that they fight wars over small patches of land. They know nothing of true hardship. Let them stay on their little blue planet and play with their primitive toys." But Zexthara raised all 4 of her arms for silence. "I have studied these humans carefully. They are persistent creatures. If we simply say no, they will keep asking. They will keep building ships and trying to reach us. Eventually, they might become a problem." The hall fell quiet. Many of the aliens nodded their various heads in agreement. Humans did seem stubborn. "So I propose a test," Zexthara announced. "We will give them exactly what they want. We will invite a group of humans to prove they belong among us, but we will send them somewhere special." A hologram appeared in the center of the hall. It showed a world that made many of the aliens shudder with fear. The planet was covered in red storms that never ended. Lightning the size of mountains split the dark sky. The ground itself seemed to move and writhe like a living thing. "Koros Prime," whispered someone in the crowd. Zexthara smiled, showing teeth like sharp diamonds. "Yes, Koros Prime, the greatest death world in our galaxy. A Class 2 nightmare where even our strongest warriors fear to land. We have sent expeditions there before. Teams of our best soldiers, our most advanced scientists, our most skilled survivors. None have ever returned alive." The hologram zoomed in to show the planet's surface. Pools of acid bubbled and steamed. Strange creatures with too many teeth prowled between rocks that glowed with deadly radiation. Plants that moved like animals snapped at anything that came too close. "The gravity there is 3 times what these humans are used to," Zexthara explained. "The air burns their lungs. The rain dissolves metal. At night things come out of the deep caves that even we dare not name. It is a place where only the strongest can survive, and even then only for a short time." A council member who looked like a walking crystal formation spoke up. "You want to send the humans there?" "That seems cruel even for primitives." "Not cruel," Zexthara replied. "Merciful. If they die quickly on Koros Prime, it will save them from the slow death that awaits all primitive species. They will perish thinking they were brave heroes instead of dying slowly as their world becomes too small for their dreams." The council considered this. It did seem like a kind way to end the human problem. "And if by some miracle they survive?" asked the jellyfish alien. Zexthara laughed to sound like crystal bells breaking. "Then they will have earned their place among us. But that will never happen. No species has ever survived 30 days on Koros Prime. These soft, weak humans will be lucky to last 30 hours. The vote was quick and unanimous. Every alien in the council agreed to the test. They would invite 50 humans to prove themselves on Koros Prime. If even one survived for 30 days, humanity would be welcomed into the galactic community. Far away, on a blue world orbiting a yellow star, Captain Sarah Chen received the message aboard the Earthship Endeavor. She was a small woman with dark hair and quick eyes that missed nothing. Around her, the 50 volunteers who had agreed to represent humanity waited for her words. The message from the aliens was polite but clear. Humanity was being offered a chance to prove itself worthy of joining the galactic community. All they had to do was survive 30 days on a world called Koros Prime. "They're calling it a test of worthiness," Chen told her crew. "But I've looked at the data they sent us about this planet. This isn't a test. It's an execution." The crew members looked at each other nervously. They had all volunteered, knowing the mission might be dangerous, but this sounded worse than anything they had imagined. Dr. Martinez, the team's chemist, studied the readings on his tablet. The atmospheric composition alone should kill us in minutes. The gravity will crush our bones. The wildlife appears to be designed by nightmares. Sergeant Rodriguez, a tough Marine with scars from a dozen battles, actually smiled. So it's going to be interesting. Chen looked around at her team. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, and survival experts. Each one had volunteered knowing they might never come home. Each one represented the best humanity had to offer. They think we're weak, she said quietly. They think we're soft and helpless because we come from a gentle world. They have no idea what humans are really capable of when we're pushed to our limits. The ship's engineer, Kim, looked up from her console. The aliens have given us basic equipment and a dropship. Nothing fancy. They expect us to fail. Then let's disappoint them, Chen replied. She activated the ship's communication system and sent a message back to the Galactic Council. Humanity accepts your challenge. We will see you in 30 days. As the Endeavor changed course toward Koros Prime, none of the humans knew they were about to make history. The aliens watching from their safe observatories expected to witness a quick and tragic end to humanity's space dreams. Instead, they were about to learn why humans had crawled out of caves to build cities, crossed oceans in wooden boats, and turned a world of ice ages and predators into a garden. They were about to discover that sometimes the most dangerous thing in the universe is a species that refuses to quit. The red storms of Koros Prime grew larger in the ship's viewscreen. Soon the real test would begin. The drop pods fell through the angry red sky of Koros Prime like metal meteors. Inside each pod, a human was strapped tight, feeling every violent shake as the wind tried to tear them apart. The aliens had designed these pods to survive the planet's deadly atmosphere, but just barely. Captain Sarah Chen felt her teeth rattle as her pod spun wildly. Through the small window, she could see the surface rushing up to meet her. It looked like the inside of a volcano. Red rock stretched in every direction, broken by pools of bubbling liquid that glowed with their own sick light. The pod hit the ground with a crash that would have killed a normal person. Chen groaned and checked her body for broken bones. Everything hurt, but everything still worked. Around her, she could hear the other pods landing with similar bone-jarring impacts. She pressed the emergency release and the pod door hissed open. Immediately, the smell hit her like a punch in the face. The air reeked of sulfur and burning metal. Each breath felt like swallowing fire. Sound off. She called into her radio. One by one, her team members reported in. Amazingly, all 50 humans had survived the landing. The aliens watching from their orbiting ships made notes of surprise in their records. Chen stepped out of her pod and immediately understood why this place was called a Deathworld. The gravity hit her like a giant hand pressing down on her shoulders. Every step took 3 times as much effort as it should. Her equipment felt impossibly heavy. The sky above was a swirling mass of red and black clouds split by lightning that never stopped. The air itself seemed to shimmer with heat, and she could feel her skin starting to burn even through her protective suit. Jesus Christ, muttered Sergeant Rodriguez as he stumbled out of his own pod. It's like someone took hell and made it worse. Dr. Martinez was already taking readings with his instruments. The radiation levels are off the charts. The atmospheric pressure is crushing. And this rain, he held up his hand. Where drops of the red rain had hit his glove, the material was smoking and dissolving. Acid rain, Chen observed. Strong enough to eat through our gear. How long do we have? At this rate? Maybe 6 hours before our suits fail completely, Martinez replied. Kim, their engineer, was examining her equipment pod. Half of it had been dissolved by the rain during the few minutes since landing. Our communication gear is gone. The fabrication units are scrap. We've got basic tools and whatever we can salvage, but that's it. Chen looked around at her team. They were supposed to be humanity's best and brightest, but right now they looked like refugees from a disaster. Their faces were grim behind their helmet visors, and she could see fear in their eyes. That's when the first attack came. Something burst out of the ground near Dr. Patel, the team's biologist. It looked like a cross between a spider and a chainsaw, all clicking metal legs and spinning blade teeth. Patel barely had time to scream before the thing was on him. Rodriguez moved faster than should have been possible in the heavy gravity. His rifle barked 3 times, and the creature exploded in a shower of sparks and metal fragments. What the hell was that? Patel gasped, checking himself for wounds. Native wildlife, Chen said grimly. And I bet it has friends. She was right. The gunshots had attracted attention. Things began emerging from cracks in the rocks, from pools of acid, from holes that hadn't been there moments before. They came in all shapes and sizes, but they all had one thing in common. They wanted to kill the humans. The battle that followed would have impressed generals back on Earth. Chen's team fought like the trained professionals they were, but they were outnumbered 100 to 1. Every creature they killed seemed to call 2 more from the depths of the planet. "We can't keep this up!" Dr. Martinez shouted over the sound of gunfire. "We're burning through ammunition too fast." Chen's mind raced. They couldn't win a straight fight. They needed to be smarter. "Kim," she called, "can you rig some of those metal fragments into explosives?" "Give me 5 minutes," Kim replied, already gathering pieces of the dead creatures. "Rodriguez, set up a defensive perimeter around Kim. Everyone else fall back to the landing site. We need to buy time." The team moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for impossible situations, and this definitely qualified. As Kim worked frantically to build bombs from alien metal, the rest of the team held the line against wave after wave of attacks. But it was Dr. Martinez who made the first real breakthrough. As he studied the acid rain that was slowly eating their equipment, he noticed something interesting. "Chen," he called. "The plants. Look at the plants." Chen followed his pointing finger. Scattered around the landing site were strange twisted trees that seemed to be thriving in the deadly rain. Their bark was thick and oily, and the acid rolled right off them. "The sap," Martinez continued. "If we can extract the sap from those trees, we might be able to coat our equipment. Make it acid-resistant." It was a desperate plan, but desperate was all they had. While half the team continued fighting the creatures, the other half began harvesting sap from the alien trees. It was dangerous work. The trees fought back, lashing out with thorny branches. But humans had been dealing with hostile plants since the beginning of time. By the end of the first day, they had managed to coat their most essential equipment with tree sap. It wasn't perfect, but it would buy them time. They had also discovered that the native creatures seemed to avoid certain areas near the trees. Following this clue, they managed to set up a temporary camp in a small grove. As night fell, the temperature dropped to levels that should have killed them instantly. But humans had survived ice ages before. They huddled together for warmth and took turns standing watch. That's when they heard the sounds. Deep rumbling roars echoed across the landscape. The ground shook with massive footsteps. In the distance, they could see shapes moving through the darkness, shapes the size of buildings. "The night shift," Rodriguez muttered. "I was wondering when they'd show up." Chen looked at her team. They were exhausted, injured, and running low on supplies. By all rights, they should have been dead already. The aliens watching from orbit were making frantic notes, unable to understand how the humans had survived even this long. But Chen saw something else in her team's faces. Yes, there was fear. Yes, there was exhaustion. But there was also something the aliens had never seen before in their records of Deathworld expeditions. There was determination, stubborn human determination that said, "We're not dead yet, so we keep fighting." "All right, people," Chen said quietly. "We've made it through day 1. Tomorrow we figure out how to make this place work for us instead of against us. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start turning this Deathworld into our new home." The aliens in orbit recorded her words with growing confusion. Home? Did these humans not understand they were supposed to die? They were about to learn that humans had a very different relationship with the word impossible than the rest of the galaxy. 2 weeks had passed since the humans landed on Koros Prime, and the aliens watching from orbit were starting to panic. Their instruments showed impossible readings. Not only were all 50 humans still alive, but they seemed to be thriving. Captain Chen stood at the edge of what her team now called Base Camp Alpha. What had started as a desperate huddle in a grove of acid-resistant trees had grown into something that looked almost like a small town. Shelters made from salvaged pod metal and woven plant fibers dotted the area. Gardens of carefully tended alien vegetables grew in neat rows, and around the entire camp ran a fence made from the crystalline bones of dead creatures. "Status report," Chen called to her team leaders as they gathered for their morning briefing. Dr. Martinez spoke first. "The chemistry lab is fully operational. I've identified 43 different compounds we can extract from local plants. 12 of them are useful for medicine, 8 make excellent explosives, and 1 tastes surprisingly good in coffee." Chen raised an eyebrow. "You've been drinking alien plant juice?" Carefully tested first, of course, Martinez grinned. But yes, it's got a nice kick to it. Kim, their engineer, was next. The workshop is coming along nicely. I've figured out how to work the crystal bones from those spider saw things. They're incredibly strong and they conduct electricity really well. I've built us some proper tools and weapons. She held up what looked like a sword, but the blade hummed with energy and glowed with a soft blue light. And the defensive systems? Chen asked. Better than I hoped, Kim replied proudly. I've rigged up a sonic barrier using parts from our destroyed communication equipment. It keeps the smaller creatures away, and it really annoys the big ones. Rodriguez stepped forward with his report. The hunting teams are exceeding all expectations. We've mapped 15 different species of hostile creatures, and we've figured out how to kill all of them efficiently. The meat from the armored slugs tastes terrible, but it's very nutritious. The flying razor birds are much better eating. Chen nodded. Casualties? Minor injuries only. Patel got a nasty cut from a thorn whip, but Martinez's medicine healed it up in 2 days. Johnson twisted his ankle in a gravity trap, but he's back on duty. The aliens listening to these reports through their surveillance equipment couldn't believe what they were hearing. 15 different species? These humans were supposed to be dead, not conducting biological surveys. Dr. Okafor, their botanist, spoke up next. I've had a breakthrough with the carnivorous plants. It turns out they're not actually aggressive. They're just very hungry. If you feed them regularly, they become quite friendly. Chen looked around the camp's perimeter. What she had initially thought was a defensive fence she now realized was something much stranger. The posts weren't made of crystal bone. They were living plants. Massive, toothy flowers swayed gently in the acid rain, occasionally snapping at flying creatures that came too close. You've trained man-eating plants to guard our camp? Chen asked. They prefer the term security consultants, Okafor replied with a straight face. And they work for food, which is much cheaper than ammunition. Kim laughed. I like them better than the automated defenses I was building. They're more creative. The briefing was interrupted by a deep rumbling sound that made the ground shake. Chen looked toward the source of the noise and saw something that would have terrified her 2 weeks ago. Now it just made her sigh. The Vorthak are back, Rodriguez observed. The Vorthak were the planet's apex predators. They stood 30 feet tall, looked like a cross between a T-Rex and a diamond mine, and had never failed to kill every expedition that encountered them. The aliens had sent their best warriors against Vorthak packs. None had survived. Chen watched as 3 of the massive crystal beasts approached their camp. Their eyes glowed like red stars, and their footsteps left molten glass prints in the rocky ground. All right, people, she called out calmly. It's Tuesday. You know what that means. Her team responded with groans and complaints. "Aw, come on, Cap," called out Specialist Torres from his position near the sonic barrier. Can't we skip Vorthak hunting just this once? It's been a long week. You said we could have a rest day, added Dr. Patel. Chen shook her head. A rest day is when nothing tries to kill us. The Vorthak are trying to kill us. Therefore, it's a Vorthak hunting day. Rules are rules. The aliens watching this exchange felt their understanding of reality beginning to crack. These humans were complaining about having to hunt the galaxy's most dangerous predators. Like it was a chore? Rodriguez was already checking his weapon, one of Kim's crystal bone energy swords. Dibs on the big one in the middle. I need a new coffee table. You always get the big one, protested Johnson. Let someone else have a turn. I'm the best at the gravity spin move, Rodriguez replied. You can have the next big one. Chen activated her radio. All right, people. Standard Vorthak protocol. Teams of 3. Sonic disruptors to disorient them, then close combat with the crystal weapons. Remember, aim for the resonance points Kim mapped out, and try not to damage the good crystal. We need it for next week's construction project. The team scattered with practiced efficiency. The aliens in orbit watched in growing horror as the humans spread out around the approaching Vorthak in a coordinated attack pattern. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The humans attacked, not with desperate last stands or heroic sacrifices, but with the casual efficiency of farmers harvesting crops. They moved like a pack of wolves, each knowing exactly where the others would be. The sonic disruptors Kim had built from their ruined equipment sang their high-pitched song, and the mighty Vorthak stumbled, their crystal bodies resonating painfully. Then the humans closed in with their energy weapons. They moved impossibly fast in the crushing gravity, as if they had been born in 3G fields. They struck at precise points Kim had identified as structural weaknesses, and the crystalline monsters began to crack and shatter. The largest vortex, the one Rodriguez had claimed, lasted almost 5 minutes before its massive crystal body collapsed in a shower of valuable fragments. The human marine stood on top of the fallen beast and actually yawned. "Getting too easy," he complained. "Maybe we should hunt them at night when they're more active." Chen walked over to inspect the kills. 3 vortex, dead in under 10 minutes with 0 human casualties. "Good work, everyone. Standard salvage protocols. Kim, you get first pick of the crystals for your projects. Martinez, see if you can extract any useful compounds from the body fluids. Everyone else, let's get this cleaned up before lunch." As her team began efficiently butchering the most feared predators in the galaxy, Chen looked up at the red, stormy sky. She knew the aliens were up there, watching, recording everything. She smiled and waved. High above, Ambassador Zexathera stared at her instruments in disbelief. The readings had to be wrong. Humans didn't wave cheerfully after killing Vorthak. Humans were supposed to be dead, but the evidence was right there in front of her. Not only were the humans alive, they were turning Koros Prime into their personal hunting preserve. They had made friends with carnivorous plants, built weapons from monster bones, and were apparently using apex predators as furniture materials. "This is impossible," she whispered. Down on the planet's surface, Chen was organizing the afternoon's activities. "Okay, people. After lunch, Team 1 continues mapping the southern caves. Team 2 works on expanding the workshop. Team 3 has volcano duty. Martinez wants to collect some of those heat crystals for his experiments." "What about the giant acid lakes?" asked Dr. Patel. "Tomorrow," Chen replied. "Kim thinks she can build us a boat." The aliens listening to this conversation felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold vacuum of space. These humans weren't just surviving Koros Prime. They were making it their home. 3.5 weeks into their stay on Koros Prime, the humans had done something that broke every rule in the Galactic Council's xenobiology textbooks. They had not merely survived a death world, they had improved it. Ambassador Zexathara stood in the observation deck of her ship, staring down at the planet that was supposed to have been humanity's graveyard. Instead of a barren wasteland dotted with human corpses, she saw something that made her question everything she thought she knew about evolution. The humans had built a city. It wasn't a crude survival camp anymore. What spread across the red landscape below looked like something from an advanced civilization. Crystalline towers rose toward the sky, their surfaces gleaming with captured lightning. Gardens of alien plants created geometric patterns that could be seen from orbit, and everywhere there was movement. Humans going about their daily business as if they lived on a pleasant garden world instead of a class-Thuthine death world. "Status report," Zexthera demanded of her science officer. The Veltarian scientist, who looked like a walking mushroom covered in sensors, consulted his instruments with trembling fronds. "Ambassador, the readings are unprecedented. The humans have not only survived, they have fundamentally altered the planetary ecosystem." "Explain." "They have domesticated 17 species of predatory plants. They have established a symbiotic relationship with the Koros crystal formations. They have somehow trained flying predators to serve as, I believe the human term is pets." Zexathera's forearms clenched into fists. "That's impossible. The creatures of Koros Prime cannot be domesticated. They are pure killing machines." "Watch this," the science officer said, adjusting his screens to show a closer view of the human settlement. On the display, they could see Captain Chen walking through what appeared to be a garden. But this was no ordinary garden. The plants moved and swayed in response to her presence, their massive tooth-filled mouths opening and closing, in what could only be described as friendly greetings. Flying creatures that looked like living razors swooped down to perch on her shoulders, cooing like pigeons. A pack of smaller Vorthak, juveniles that were still the size of earth elephants, trotted up to her like dogs greeting their owner. Chen scratched one behind its crystal ear, and the massive predator made a sound that could only be called purring. "By the void," Zexthera whispered. "They've turned the apex predators into pets." The science officer adjusted his readings again. "It gets worse, Ambassador. Or better, depending on your perspective. The humans have made contact with the Koros crystalline mines." Zexthara went very still. "The what?" "The native intelligence of Koros Prime." We always assumed the planet was uninhabited because we never detected any signs of civilization. But the humans found them. They live in the planet's core, and they've been watching us for millennia. On the screen, they watched as Captain Chen descended into a cave entrance that definitely hadn't been there when the humans first landed. The tunnel was lined with glowing crystals that pulsed with their own inner light. As Chen walked deeper underground, the crystals began to sing, actual musical tones that harmonized together into something beautiful. The crystal mines have been hiding from galactic civilization, the science officer continued. They consider most of us too violent and destructive to trust. But apparently they like the humans. The view switched to an underground chamber that took Zexathara's breath away. It was vast, carved from living crystal and filled with beings that looked like walking gemstones. They were clearly intelligent. Their crystal bodies were shaped into complex geometric forms that seemed to shift and change as they moved. And they were having a conversation with Captain Chen. Translation systems online, the science officer reported. Let's see what they're talking about. The crystal being Chen was speaking with chimed in harmonious tones that the ship's computer translated into standard galactic. Your people have brought much change to our world. Captain Chen, change that is refreshing. Thank you, Harmony of Deep Places, Chen replied, somehow managing to pronounce the crystal being's musical name. We hope we haven't been too disruptive. Disruptive? You have brought life where there was only survival. Your gardens sing with new colors. Your people work with the world instead of against it. You are the first surface dwellers we have ever considered worthy of friendship. Zexathara felt her understanding of the universe beginning to crumble. The crystal mines of Koros Prime were legend, ancient beings of incredible intelligence who had supposedly vanished eons ago. And they were chatting with a human like old friends. We have a proposal, the crystal being continued. Our people have skills in crystal shaping and energy focusing. Your people have skills in what you call engineering and biology. Perhaps we could work together. I'd love to hear more, Chen replied. We're always looking for new ways to improve our settlement. The view switched back to the surface where the results of this cooperation were already becoming visible. Human engineers worked alongside crystal beings to construct buildings that defied conventional physics. Plants genetically modified by human scientists grew in patterns guided by crystal intelligence, creating living architecture that was both beautiful and functional. Dr. Martinez had set up a laboratory that would have impressed universities on the most advanced worlds. His alien chemistry experiments had produced materials stronger than anything in the galactic databases. Kim's workshop was producing tools and weapons that incorporated both human engineering and crystal technology. Most disturbing of all, the humans were clearly enjoying themselves. Look at this, the science officer said, switching to another view. A group of humans had built what could only be described as a recreational facility. They were surfing down rivers of molten lava, using crystal boards that somehow protected them from the heat. Others were racing flying predators through obstacle courses built in the treetops of carnivorous forests. Sergeant Rodriguez's sister, Chen noticed, had organized what appeared to be a competitive hunting league. Humans were keeping score of their Vorthak kills, competing to see who could take down the largest specimens with the most style. They're having fun, Zexathara said in a voice filled with horror. They're treating the most dangerous planet in the galaxy like a vacation resort. It gets worse, the science officer reported. Or better. They've started sending daily reports to their homeworld. Other humans are asking when they can visit. The screen showed Chen in what appeared to be a communication center, speaking to a camera with the enthusiasm of a travel guide. Day 25 on Koros Prime, she was saying. Weather is lovely. Only 3 acid storms this week, and the lightning shows at night are incredible. The local wildlife has really warmed up to us. My pet Vorthak Steve learned a new trick yesterday, and the crystal mines have agreed to teach us their singing techniques. Behind her, a massive crystalline predator was indeed performing what looked like a trick, rolling over to show its belly scales while making happy rumbling sounds. The fishing in the acid lakes is fantastic, Chen continued. Dr. Patel caught something yesterday that was trying to catch him back. We had it for dinner. Tasted like spicy chicken. Martinez has invented a new cocktail using local fruit that only causes mild hallucinations. She paused to pet another flying creature that had landed on her shoulder. All in all, we're thinking of making this permanent. The council offered us a 30-day trial, but honestly, we'd like to extend our stay. This place has really grown on us. The commute to Earth is a bit long, but the neighbors are friendly and the cost of living is practically nothing. Zexthera turned away from the screen. She couldn't watch anymore. In less than a month, these supposedly primitive humans had achieved something that the greatest civilizations in the galaxy had never managed. They had turned a Deathworld into a home. And worse, they were making it look easy. Ambassador, her science officer said quietly, I'm detecting something else. Energy signatures from the crystal mine's deep chambers. They're not just talking to the humans. They're building something together. Building what? I don't know. But it's big. And it's generating power signatures I've never seen before. Zexthera closed her eyes. The humans weren't just surviving their test. They were thriving. They were making allies. They were probably about to revolutionize crystal technology and share it with the galaxy. The test was supposed to prove that humans weren't ready for galactic civilization. Instead, it was proving that galactic civilization might not be ready for humans. Day 30 arrived on Koros Prime with the kind of beautiful acid storm that the human colonists had learned to appreciate for its artistic value. Captain Chen stood on the observation deck of what had once been a simple survival shelter and was now the administrative center of humanity's first extraterrestrial city. She was tanned, healthy, and according to Dr. Martinez's latest medical scans, in better physical condition than when she had arrived. The crushing gravity had turned out to be an excellent workout program. The mineral-rich air had improved her lung capacity. Even the constant low-level radiation had somehow boosted her immune system. Status report for our final day, she called to her department heads. Kim looked up from a blueprint that showed plans for expanding their crystal tech manufacturing facility. Engineering is operating at 200% efficiency. The crystal mines have taught us tricks with energy focusing that will revolutionize power generation back on Earth. We've got orders for our new tools from 12 different human colonies. Chen raised an eyebrow. Orders from colonies that don't exist yet? The applications started coming in yesterday. Kim grinned. Apparently our daily reports home have been inspiring. Earth wants to establish 17 new colonies, and they all want to use our technology. Dr. Martinez was next. Medical research has produced 43 new medicines, 12 new surgical techniques, and 1 new recreational drug that the crystal mines insist is perfectly safe. We've eliminated 17 diseases that have plagued humanity for centuries, and we've invented 3 new ones just for fun. Just for fun? Chen asked. They're harmless, Martinez assured her. One makes you glow in the dark for a week. One temporarily gives you the ability to see in ultraviolet. And one makes everything taste like chocolate. Rodriguez stepped forward with his report. Security is, well, there isn't much to secure anymore. The local predators have all either become pets, moved away, or signed non-aggression pacts with us. The Vorthak herds are now officially protected wildlife. We've got a sustainable breeding program going, and the young ones make excellent guard animals. Dr. Okafor nodded agreement. Botanical research has identified 347 new species, domesticated 89 of them, and created 23 entirely new hybrid plants that shouldn't exist according to any known laws of biology. The carnivorous plants have started composing poetry. It's surprisingly good. And the crystal mines? Chen asked. The question was answered by a musical chiming sound as harmony of deep places materialized in the room. The crystal mind had learned to project itself to the surface using technology that was part human engineering, part crystal singing, and part pure impossibility. We have completed the project, Harmony announced, its crystal body ringing like bells. The deep resonance chamber's operational. Chen smiled. The deep resonance chamber was something that had never existed before. A fusion of human engineering and crystal mind music that could supposedly communicate across interstellar distances instantly. If it worked, it would change everything about how the galaxy stayed in contact. Any word from the Galactic Council? Chen asked. As if summoned by her question, the communication system activated. The stern face of Ambassador Zexthera appeared on the screen, but she looked much less confident than she had 30 days ago. Captain Chen, Zexthera began, the 30 days of your trial are complete. We are prepared to retrieve any survivors. Chen looked around at her team. All 50 humans were not only alive, but healthier and happier than they had been when they arrived. Behind them, through the windows of their crystal and metal building, A thriving city sparkled in the red light of Koros Prime's stormy sky. About that, Chen replied. We've been talking it over and we'd like to request an extension. Zexithera blinked all four of her eyes. An extension? This place has really grown on us, Chen continued. The weather's interesting, the neighbors are friendly, and we've got some projects we'd like to finish. The crystal mines have offered to teach us their advanced harmonic sciences, and we think that knowledge could benefit the entire galaxy. You want to stay? If that's okay with you, Chen said politely. We understand you might have other people who want to use the planet for their own Deathworld trials, but we're hoping we could work out some kind of time-sharing arrangement. The ambassador's image flickered as she tried to process this information. Captain Chen, you do understand that Koros Prime is a Class 2 Deathworld? The most dangerous classification in our database? Chen looked thoughtful. You know, we've been meaning to talk to you about that. Your classification system might need some work. We'd rate this place maybe a Class 3 at most. Class 4 if you're not good with gardening. Class 3? Zexthara's voice cracked. Captain, you've been living on a planet where the rain dissolves metal. Only certain metals, Chen corrected. And we've developed much better materials anyway. Dr. Martinez's new alloys are incredibly strong. We're thinking of marketing them. On her ship, Zexithera turned to her science officer, who was frantically checking his instruments. Are they actually suggesting that Koros Prime isn't dangerous? Ambassador, the science officer whispered. I'm reading massive energy signatures from the planet's core. Whatever they've built down there with the crystal mines, it's generating more power than our ship's entire reactor core. Back on the planet's surface, Chen was continuing her conversation with the increasingly bewildered ambassador. We've also been in touch with Earth, Chen said. The colonial administration is very interested in establishing a permanent research station here. The opportunities for scientific advancement are incredible. Plus, the crystal mines have agreed to share their technology with humanity. In exchange, we're teaching them human cooking techniques. Cooking techniques? Harmony of Deep Places has become quite good at making pizza, Chen explained. Turns out crystal beings have an excellent sense of flavor, they just never had the ingredients before. As if to demonstrate, Harmony chimed in harmonious agreement. Human food preparation methods are most illuminating. We have composed several songs about the joy of properly seasoned nutrition. Zexithera felt reality sliding away from her. You're teaching ancient crystal intelligences to cook? Cultural exchange, Chen replied. It's very important for building lasting friendships. Which reminds me, the crystal mines would like to invite the Galactic Council to send a diplomatic mission. They've been isolated for millions of years and they're curious about the galaxy beyond Koros Prime. The ambassador's expression went through several complicated changes. The crystal mines want to join the Galactic Council? Eventually, maybe. First, they want to learn more about galactic civilization. They're particularly interested in our music. Harmony thinks human symphonies might be compatible with crystal resonance singing. We are planning a concert, Harmony added helpfully. Human instruments and crystal mind voices performing together. It will be the first such collaboration in galactic history. Zexithera looked at her instruments, her crew, and the planet below where humans were somehow thriving, in conditions that should have killed them in hours. She had been so certain that this test would prove human weakness. Instead, it had proven that her understanding of what was possible was far too limited. Captain Chen, she said slowly, the Galactic Council needs to discuss this development. You have exceeded our expectations. Take your time, Chen replied cheerfully. We're not going anywhere. Oh, and when you do send that diplomatic mission, make sure they bring musical instruments and maybe some better food. The crystal mines are excited to try more human recipes. As the transmission ended, Zexithera slumped in her command chair. Below her, the planet that was supposed to have been humanity's graveyard sparkled with the lights of a growing civilization. Humans and crystal mines worked together in impossible harmony, building technologies that would reshape the galaxy. The test had been intended to keep humanity out of galactic civilization. Instead, it had created the galaxy's newest power, led by a species that treated impossible challenges as weekend entertainment. Science officer, she said wearily, begin preparing a full report for the council. Tell them we need to revise our understanding of human capabilities. What should I list as the primary finding? He asked. Zexithera looked at the thriving human city below and sighed. that we may have just discovered the galaxy's first truly unstoppable species. And they're friendly. Down on Koros Prime, Captain Chen was already planning humanity's next great adventure. There were rumors of an even more dangerous world in the Andromeda Galaxy, and several of her team members were getting bored with how easy their current planet had become. After all, they were human, and humans always needed a new challenge.